How's it going, aliens? My name's IALiEN. Today I'm back on another Identity 5 video, and today's video is my COA VII predictions video. So let's get right into the video. Okay, so I forgot to do this one last year, but I usually do this around COA, and I'll probably do another one around the playoffs. I've seen every single region's COA. I've watched every single one of these teams and seen basically every competition. So I'm pretty knowledgeable, I'd like to say, but it doesn't mean my predictions will be 100% right. Last COA I did win enough to get the accessory I wanted, but it wasn't 100% accurate. It may have been 85%. Just because it's tough to predict, and even some of these groups, I'll tell you if there's two teams that's you can pick and stuff like that. That's really close. But yeah, let's start with Group A. So in Group A, really you have the best team here is GG. GG is a safe pick for number one. GG obviously made the finals of COA last year, and this is basically a lot of the same team. But also, they won the summer season of IVL, and they came second in the fall season. They're really strong, a really strong team. Sham is a really good hunter, and their survivors are probably one of the three best, teams in the world. So that's a pretty safe prediction for GG. They are in a very tough group, though. So all of these teams can beat them. This is the hardest group, in my opinion, to pick, because all of these teams are very good. GG can lose to any of these teams, maybe for the exception of DAO 5. Me personally, I have Zeta at 2, but this is where it gets really hard again. Zeta is the best Japanese team. But the question always is, how do you stack up against Chinese teams? Last year in the group stage, they did very well. They got second in the group stage to Wolves, but they beat GR. But then we saw in the playoff stage, they lost to GW, who is really at the time was a bottom tier Chinese team, while Zeta is the best Japanese team. So it kind of showed you the gap between the two. But as far as the group stage goes, I have Zeta number 2, but MRC is another smart pick to put at number 2. My number 3, for you guys, if you want the best number 3 expert pick, I would pick MRC here. MRC has a very strong hunter in XC. He's the best Dream Witch in the world. He's a really good and their round 1 singer is pretty strong as well. And Ali, their survivors are good. They usually do their job. So MRC is a strong team. Comparing them to a team like Zeta survivors are kind of their carry, but their hunters are very strong. They have a good round 1. And obviously Alf is one of the best Japanese hunters. So these teams are really close to each other. I have MRC a little bit below, but they could definitely be second. For me, I'm actually going to put GR at number 3 because I'm kind of biased and GR is my favorite team. So I'm going to put them at number 3. And they do have a chance to get to number 3. The issue with GR is they have the worst hunting of probably any Chinese professional team. Arguably of any professional team, Japanese or Chinese. Their hunting's really, really weak, but their survivors are the best, if not top 3, top 4 survivors in the entire world. So they're a complete survivor carry. So then we go MRC. And lastly, we go with DAO 5. Some people may be wondering, because DAO 5 won COA last year, why are they so low? And this is because they lost DX. DX is on ZQ now. So Dow 5's hunter is Yan. He went by QY before, and their survivors are some of the same, some new. Dow 5 was the weakest team in China last IPO, but they have actually done pretty well in COA qualifiers. So there is always a chance that they can come second or third. Technically, they did even better than GR did at COA, but just talent-wise, they should come fifth. So this is my 5. If I was recommending it, I'd probably put MRC third. Now let's get to Group B. So the two teams you see immediately in Group B that will come first and second is RC and HHDG. RC is a very strong Japanese team. They're a hunter carry team, so their first round is very good. Peter is maybe the best singer in the entire world. He's definitely the best opera singer in Japan. And then Aka is, in my opinion, the best hunter in Japan, but at worst, he's number 2 to Alf. Aka's a really strong hunter, and he's also shown that he can beat Chinese professional teams. He did it last COA. So RC has great hunting, and their survivors are very inconsistent, but when they're at their best, they are strong. HHDG is the biggest surprise of the Chinese region because they are an amateur team. They're not a professional team. And this is the first time in the professional era that a non-professional team actually made COA. But HHDG beat professional teams such as ZQ and GR, who are both pretty strong Chinese teams. It's not as if they're the weaker professional teams. They're actually pretty strong. HHDG's hunter is very good. TZYM, he's very good. Their survivors do have a former professional player on them, but overall their survivors are kind of hit or miss, but they're not the worst. So these two teams will definitely come first and second. It's just which one do you have first, which one do you have second. So it's just about who do you think will win this matchup. Me personally, I'm going to play it a bit safe, maybe too safe, and I'll go with the professional team in Japan, with RC winning and HHDG coming second. But HHDG already proved that they could beat professional teams, so 1 and 2, that's very close. I have RC first. I have HHDG second. Third here, the likely pick would be RD. RD is the representative of the Hong Kong, Mackay, Taiwan region. RD is most known for their round 1 hunter. Their hunter is Dream. He is the best Mad Eyes in the entire world. He has a 100% win rate in COA, as far as I know, because I've watched COA over the last few years. Every single time he's played in COA qualifiers or in global, he's never lost, as far as I can remember. So Dream is just the ultimate round 1 hunter. His Mad Eyes is insanely hard to beat. A few years ago, he was on RD, and they faced GG. The year that GG won COA, I want to say COA 4 or COA 3. COA 4, I'm pretty sure. It's the year that GG won. He faced GG round 1 with Mad Eyes, with them going anti-Mad Eyes, and on Arms Factory, which is his worst map, and he still 3-man them. He still beat them. So that's how strong he is. He's beaten professional team. So he will be able to do a pretty good job carrying RD, but that's not to demean the other players on their team, because the survivors to me are pretty impressive. They are not, for an amateur team, they're not bad at all. Especially for an amateur global team, they are not bad at all. Their survivors can hold their own. and their secondary hunter can also hold his own. So RD would be led by Dreams Mad Eyes, but they do enough to take the first round and carry that on to victory. So then 4th and 5th, you're going to have Omni from the NAEU region, and you'll have FT from the Southeast Asia region. This is very difficult. Me personally, I would have FT 4th, and I would have Omni 5th. Omni is a better team than they were last year. So if for people who don't know and maybe saw them last year, and their performance was not great last year, they are better. In my opinion, their survivor team is more coordinated and their hunting has improved, but they still, like, they had a really long ways to go, and they've kind of gotten better and better, but it's still not quite strong enough. Their survivors are, I'd say the hunting is the strength of the team, but the biggest concern with their hunting is they don't have a round 1 singer. Pitt Stopers is their round 1 hunter. We haven't seen him play singer really to a high level. He uses Dream Witch round 1, and that's just a huge concern going into COA. Dream Witch round 1 is fine if you're like a god, but not quite that level. So their survivors are still probably one of the bottom half of survivor teams in COA, but their hunting isn't quite strong enough to carry them. But they have a good chance against FT. It should be close if they were to face. I just I would go with FT, but this is a really tough matchup to predict. I wouldn't be super surprised if FT was able to get 3rd over RD, but I'm gonna stick with RD 3rd. Group C, the number 1 team in Group C is immediately, it's Wolves. Wolves won the last season of IVL, the autumn season. For people who haven't kept up since last COA, this team is very different. They only have 2 remaining players from last COA, and 487 and Jelly as survivor mains. They did lose their hunter and Alex, and they lost their other survivors, IALiEN and Juan. So they kind of struggled after the losses of them, but they really became a great team. They beat GG, who was, most people thought, is the strongest team in China. They beat GG, and their survivors are playing very well. Their only weakness probably is in their rescuing with 11, but he's improved over time. And their hunting was very strong with Chongai. He was, in my opinion, the best hunter in the world for the last season. And for really this year, he's just been such a great hunter for them. I don't know if he'll hunt in COA. I'm not completely sure. But LXY has also hunted for them before, and he's not bad either. He's a pretty above average hunter. So if he's their hunter, they should still most likely get 1st in this region, or at absolute worst, if it is LXY, they may come 2nd. The number 2 team should be SZ. Scars is a balanced team. They're a professional team from Japan. They're a balanced team, but their survivors kind of take the spotlight at times. The other times, it's their hunters. I like their round 1 hunter, and Burio. His singer is pretty strong. And Lottie is a good round 2, round 3. He's one of those hunters that can basically play every character at a high level. Geisha, Bonbon, Nightwatch. The list goes on and on. So their hunting is pretty consistent usually, and their survivors have super high highs, but then they have super low lows. That's where the inconsistency comes from at SZ, but they are always the second best team in Japan, and they have done pretty well against Zeta, at least in the regular season. So SZ I would put second, Scars would come second, and third for me I have TE. This group is kind of hard to put because TE could very well come second. TE has above average survivor play. Their survivors are usually pretty consistent, and their hunter is good. So their hunter is a great singer, and his gamekeeper is good, and he's also the best Naiad in the world. He's been the S1 Naiad in China, so he's the best Naiad in the world. So TE is pretty consistent. They're pretty good. Could they beat SZ? They definitely can, but I have them third. So then this becomes hard between B4U and CAT. CAT is the South Korea representation, and B4U is the NAEU representation. This is really hard to pick. I think so. To recap, CAT, they're kind of balanced. Their survivors can play well, and their survivors can clutch out games, but they're inconsistent. That's kind of always been the stigma around South Korean teams. In COA is their survivors are strong, usually stronger than the other global amateur regions, but they're really inconsistent. And while they're less strong than usual, but also slightly more consistent, that's still what their survivor play kind of sums up to be. Their hunting is what concerns me a bit, just because of the variety of hunting they can play. It's a singer wax artist main with a fool's gold. I would like to see more a variety in the hunting. So that's kind of what concerns me about the matchup. But they're a pretty good team overall. B4U would have the stronger hunting, in my opinion. Maybe not by much, slightly, but I think their hunting is slightly stronger than CAT. Their survivors would be weaker for sure than CAT. It depends. If we go off of how B4U looked last COA, I would easily put them above CAT because their survivors actually played pretty well last COA at times. But if we go off of how the survivors looked in qualifiers, then I would put CAT above them because their survivors were really underwhelming. But I tend to think more of the positive side and go back to last COA and how well they played under pressure, and maybe that helps them out. So for that reason, I'm picking B4U 4th, and I'm picking CAT 5th. But this was a toss-up. And then finally, we have Group D. So the top two teams in Group D, most likely, are going to be the Chinese professional teams. Weibo and ZQ are both pretty strong Chinese professional teams. They're both hunter carry teams. They have arguably the two best hunters in the world. Alex, formerly of Wolves, and DX, formerly of Delphi. So I would have these two teams instantly first and second in this group. Weibo actually performed better than ZQ in COA qualifiers, but if we're talking about potential, ZQ does have more potential because DX has more win hunters than Alex, but also their survivors have been more inconsistent, but they've had more highs than Weibo's survivors have. They're all OG players. On paper, they look really good. Obviously, Dalong, IALiEN, Memory, and Juan. They're all OG survivors, all very good survivors, but they just haven't performed super well. So because of that, I would have Weibo second. I'd have ZQ first. So then last in this region is going to be GH, the Southeast Asia representation. GH, it is usually known for really strong survivor play, especially for a global amateur region. My biggest concern with GH is probably watching them in IVC and then watching them at COA qualifiers. Their survivor play isn't quite as impressive as it was really last COA, when they put up a really good fight against Wolves and Alex, and they had good moments last COA where they faced professional hunters and they beat them or tied consistently. That was good. Now when I watch their survivors, it doesn't seem to be as consistent for some reason. Their hunting, though, I do think has improved from last COA. They had Gadje as their primary hunter last COA. This year, he's not. They have the hunter, I believe, from BL last year. You could correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And he did pretty well in a global stage. So the hunting has slightly improved, but the survivors are slightly weaker. So they're a good global team. They always are. But in a region that's in a group that's fully professionals and pretty decent professional teams, it's just tough to put them anywhere above fifth. If they got a better group, they probably would have had a better chance, but this one, it's tough. So then the question comes 3 and 4. Which Japanese team do you like more? Do you like AWG or do you like Axis? I'm a huge fan of both. Just putting that out there, these are my two favorite Japanese teams. So it's kind of sad for me to put one of them being eliminated. If I judge unbiasedly, I would say that Axis has the better survivor play. Their survivors have looked very impressive at COA qualifiers. They're all OG players, and they've all really clicked around this time. Their hunting is still a concern. Putting Rise as their second round hunter has helped. So their hunting is more stable than it was last IJL season. But it still is the weakness of the team. AWG is kind of different. Their survivors are good, but they aren't elite level. They have some really good players that stand out, like AEZ and Nameko. They really stand out and they're very good survivors. But at times, the survivor play is still inconsistent, which is typical for a newer professional team. Their hunting's good. Their hunting is fairly decent. For me, I would put Axis above AWG, and I would put AWG fourth. It could go either way. I think Axis, they made COA pretty easily through Japan qualifiers, while AWG was actually the last team to make COA, and they were down 2 rounds to nothing, and they had to come back on FL to even make COA. So just prediction-wise, you would have to go Axis. But these are my 4 groups. I hope you did enjoy the video. When we get to playoffs, I'll be doing another one of these. But if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like. If you have any questions, anything you want to say, you can leave in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. And that'll be all for the video. Bye.